Go ahead and get started. So we'll call to order this meeting of the North Middlesex Regional School District School Committee for Monday, January 19th, 2023. I want to remind the committee and our audience that this meeting is being recorded. We'll do the roll call. Do we have Dave? I don't see Dave. Jessica?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
I don't see Mike. Randy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
I don't see Tom, and I am here, so that is 6. So we are good. Our next meeting, I believe, is on the 23rd of January, 2023, at 7 p.m. For the consent agenda, we have approval of minutes from our December meetings, accounts payable warrants, payroll warrants, and a series of donations.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Jessica?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, so that is unanimous. Thank you. Public communications. Robin, keep me honest, I don't believe we had anybody.
Yes, we do. I just
Okay.
checked it. We have Melissa Boylan. Let me just go into attendees. I can
Sure.
promote her to a panelist. She's a
Great.
parent of Ashby.
Okay. And then real quick, Dave, did you have something, or are you just letting us know you're here? All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
I'll be quick. Just as many of you know, I can be outspoken when I don't agree with something. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the school committee and central office administration for their continued support of keeping Ashby Elementary School open. I stay up to date with the building committee minutes, and we're all starting to feel like you really heard us. You're probably sick of all of us asking for reassurance every time we see you. I had even heard from someone over break that as recent as the week before Christmas, Mr. Morgan was answering questions and providing reassurance that he had no intention of closing Ashby when asked. So we just feel like I wanted to take this opportunity to feel like you're earning the trust back of Ashby residents, especially central office administration. And we're really starting to rebuild our trust after the Collins study, which we really felt was biased. So thank you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, Melissa. I appreciate the feedback and the comments, and that you're keeping up with all the latest happening. So really appreciate
Great.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Robin, did we have anybody else? Sorry, I
No, nobody else.
thank you very
You're
much.
good. You're good, Craig.
Appreciate it. Moving on to chairperson's report. I don't have much other than just to say Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody had a good holiday break, got a chance to recharge and rest and be with those that you care about. So welcome to 2023. We'll be diving into the thick of budget season coming up and all that. So it's going to get busy for most of us, but got a good group, so I appreciate it. Superintendent Morgan, on to your report.
I don't have anything until the budget. If you'd like me to go over that now, I can certainly do that, or I can wait until we get to that on the agenda.
Let's wait, because I think we've got a couple items with other folks, so we'll hopefully go through those very quickly and then get to the budget message. All right, under new business, the first item is the dance team stipend position, Principal McMahon and team. There we go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So yeah, this, to be honest, the chronology of this kind of escapes me. We were basically, long story short, looking to add a stipend prior to the academic year for the dance team advisor and somehow I think dropped the ball someplace. I take full ownership. I don't know where. Somewhere in the paper chain, I dropped the ball and was hoping to see if we could navigate this somehow. That's kind of the short story.
Is there detail on the, I mean, is this one position, and I guess what is
It's
the-
a typical type position where,
Okay.
you know, it's a year-long club. It got the appropriate approval last spring, and like I said, somewhere between May of last year and now, just didn't get put through. And I don't recall if it was in the prior contract, and that was stipulation that we had a problem with. The conversation was, had we gotten paperwork in, would that have been included in the CBA? Is what it comes down to.
Okay. Any questions for Principal McMahon or added detail from anybody? June?
Yeah, I'm just curious because I had no idea we had a dance team. Is this a high school dance team club? How many kids are involved? If you could just.
Yeah, it's an organized club that went through the process of, coming to me, filling the paperwork out, meeting with me, getting an advisor. And really, once the student has an advisor and a mission statement and it's been approved, it's a club. So we have 40 some odd clubs. Not all are fully active. And that's something we're looking at now for next year's budget, obviously, is what clubs are running, what are not, what stipends can we, maybe pull back on for now. And this was something that kind of lost in that shuffle. So the ultimate goal would to, essentially recognize that the person who's been advising and get them their appropriate stipend for the year. That's all.
Thank you. Randy?
Just out of curiosity, you said that they got all the appropriate approvals. Is that just from high school administration, or was this approved by the school committee for a stipend position?
Correct. And thank you, Randy. Yes, only through high school administration. Did not go, to my knowledge, through school committee process. So that's where the kind of hang up was. And I know in the past, we don't want to add a stipend mid-cycle. And I recognize that. And I don't know, to be totally fair, if this would have been in last year's budget or not, had we got dot our I's properly. But again, I wanted to at least advocate for the advisor if I had been the one to drop the ball. So. But no, it never went through the process going to school committee, to my knowledge, of getting put in the contract, to answer that question.
Anybody else questions?
Susan's raising her hand.
Oh,
The old fashioned way.
all right. Go ahead, Susan.
No, I just want to clarify, is that stipend looking to be paid for the current school year for the first time, or next school year?
The current year for this current academic year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Randy?
Out of curiosity, usually when we have stipends in front of us, we have a little bit more information as far as how many hours that they're putting in, because it needs to rise to the level. We don't usually just add in stipends just because a club was submitted and approved and they're have an advisor and they're going. We don't give stipends to all of those, and we need more information as far as how many hours, what is this for, how does this compare to the other positions that are stipend in.
All right, that's fair. I understand. Yes, I mean, I can definitely. I don't have that in front of me, to be totally honest. I don't think I was given the information, but that said, I will definitely do a little more digging for you and get back some more answers. If that's all right. Great.
That would be fine, because usually also the stipends are something that's in the contracts.
Right. I was given the impression this club had run in the past and not recently, but I need some more information for you, so I'll get that for you, and we'll circle back down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Randy.
Along those lines, Tim, the $895 that's on the agenda, I'm assuming that was selected because it was probably a similar level of time and effort as the other $895 stipends.
Yeah, it's commensurate the hours in typical meeting time, but yeah, yeah, that's where that came from. But yeah, we'll get more details to make sure that we're on the same page with that, though.
Any other questions or comments from anybody? Somebody want to make a motion or make a motion to take no action on this?
Craig, I can actually, if it's okay with you, I'll just go back to more details to Randy's point and follow up down the road, if that's okay.
So I'll make a motion that we put this on next school committee meetings agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Randy. Any other questions, comments? We'll essentially table this to our next meeting. All right, Dave? Dave, I saw you come off mute, but I can't hear you. All right,
Thumbs up.
thumbs up. Jessica,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So that is unanimous. That is tabled till the next meeting. Principal McMahon, appreciate you bringing this forward and getting us some more information for our next meeting.
Yes. And thank you to the advisor for taking, meeting the needs of the students and advising this group. I think it's a great opportunity for kids.
Next up, we've got the Kiev Wavis Education Camp. Mr. Webster, Mr. Worth.
That's actually being continued. We spoke about that on Friday, so that's just being continued to next meeting.
Okay. All right, moving right along. Next is the FC 215 Genocide Education Grant, Mr. Reese. Dr.
Thank you.
Reese. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. So we have received approval from the state for a $40,000 grant to be able to provide professional development and curriculum work for our high school staff around genocide education. Back in the fall, winter of 2021, Governor Baker signed some state legislation that school districts had to incorporate some type of genocide education into their programming. And so this will allow us to not only do some curriculum work around it, but also get some professional development to our staff as they plan out the curriculum so that it can be done in a meaningful way.
Susan?
I just had a question about the money. Is this
Yes.
to be able to continue to provide genocide education in the district? Will we need funds in future years, or is this kind of a one-time spend this money and then we're done? I'm just worried about ongoing
Yeah.
funding.
Yep, no, good question. It's a one-time. So this money will actually carry us both for this school year and the next school year. So we have until the end of the next school year to spend it. But it's really to provide the professional development and the time for staff to do some curriculum planning around that.
And then after the 40,000 in year 3, 4, 5, 6, where we won't need additional funds to continue this. It's kind of a
No.
ramp up money.
Correct.
There's no additional staff or anything.
No, nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Randy?
I was just wondering where this is going to fit into the high school curriculum. Is there a certain year that this is? Is this spread out through the different classes?
So actually, that's a great question. And what they're trying to do through this grant is spread it out throughout the classes. So part of the legislation that Governor Baker had signed really talked about that he didn't want it to be a standalone piece, but looking at within the current curriculum frameworks, how do those topics and concepts
Gary, we lost your audio all of a sudden for some reason.
No.
Nope. I heard the no.
Let me
There we go.
try. Do you have me?
I do
No?
now, yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to move at all.
There you go.
So essentially, and that's really hard for an Italian not to move their hands, and the governor's legislation wants us to look at how do we embed it into the current frameworks. And so it'll be captured throughout the courses rather than within one specific course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then just for clarity, is this professional development only for high school teachers and staff?
At this time, yes.
Any other questions from anybody? All right, then I will take a motion for the school committee to approve the FC 215 genocide education grant of $40,000 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
So moved.
Second,
All right, Randy and June. Any other questions or comments? All right, Dave,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
June,
yes,
Lisa,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and I will vote yes, so that is unanimous. Thank you. And the next is the FY23 Math Acceleration Academics Grant.
Yes, so we had a really good week for receiving grants last week.
Good.
Same day that we got notification for the genocide grant, we also received notification that we were being awarded an $80,000 grant through the state to provide a math acceleration program. This is similar to the Academic Acceleration Academy that Superintendent Morgan had got started for our students in grades K-2 to kind of support them in math and English. The state had put out a grant that was focusing on students in grades 3 through 12 and focused on in the content area of math. So we received word that we got the grant. It'll provide for a academy both in the February and April vacation periods for identified students in grades 3 through 12. And because of the amount of the hours that the students will be participating, and it's about a 4 to 5 hour day for students. And so we're trying to structure it around more of a project-based math initiative so that it's not just sitting in front of a piece of paper doing math for 4 hours, but it'll actually be something that hopefully the students will find engaging. But we were thrilled to be able to receive this grant as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Randy?
How many students is this going to be able to accommodate?
So it'll be approximately 10 to 15 students per grade level. But once we get the recommendations from teachers and start to put out feelers in terms of which students are interested in participating, the numbers at each grade level may adjust just accordingly so that we can make sure we get the most bang for our buck.
Thank you.
Susan?
And similar question as before. Well, first, this is for the current school year only.
Yes.
Okay. And are we anticipating the need for this to continue next school year? I mean, kids are going to be all caught up by June?
Not necessarily that they'll be all caught up, but I think, what the state is looking at by trying to offer these acceleration academies is really for the impact of COVID, and hopefully by providing this acceleration work, we're better positioning our kids to be more comfortable and successful within the regular school year.
Right. So, and I assume, Superintendent Morgan, we do not have built into the budget doing these academies again next school year.
We do not.
Do not have that in the budget. Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I missed this. What grades is this for? Is this middle? and high
Grades,
school?
grades 3 through grades 3 up,
Three
all
now.
the way
Okay.
through high school.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, if there's no other comments, then we'll take a motion that the school committee approve the FY23 Math Acceleration Academies grant in the amount of $80,000 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
So moved.
I'll give that to Lisa this time.
Then I'll
Thank you.
second.
Thank you, Randy.
I
All right,
was
any last,
muted. Dang it.
Yeah. Next time, Susan. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
I do have a question. Is there, this I know is for grades 3 and up in the grant, but I'm sure we have concerns about K-2.
So those students are already being supported through the current Acceleration Academy, where they're receiving math, English language arts, and social emotional support. And that we did our first week during the December break, and it was pretty successful. Kids seemed really happy. Parents seemed pretty pleased with their kids, the participation each week. So we'll run it again for February and April vacation.
Excellent. Any other questions for anybody? All right, this is to approve the Math Acceleration Academy's grant. Dave. Can't hear you, Dave, but we're going Jessica,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Thank you. Lisa,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So that is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Next up, the budget message update, Superintendent Morgan.
Sure. So just bear with me. What I'm going to try to do is take the budget message and pare it down a little bit, but I will need a few minutes just to kind of discuss where we are at right now. As the committee knows, I did ask to hold off until this meeting in hopes that we would be able to come in at a lower number, and we have not been successful with that. And prior to getting to the numbers, I just kind of wanted to talk to some of the challenges that we face this year. And we have had 3 budget summits with the 3 towns. We've been updating the finance committee along the way, as well as the school committee, but not in great detail. But some of the things that we have encountered this year is that we have had a significant number of move-ins over the course of the school year. We've also had a number of kids again change from homeschooling back into the district. We're dealing with state mandates around EL instruction and an influx of pre-K students who are special education eligible. And then also we're looking at class size and trying to maintain a class size that's doable for our teachers, especially in a post-pandemic environment. Currently, we are just about 7 full-time teachers over what was included in the FTE, in the FY23 budget. And those additional 7 positions are being funded through grants and revolving accounts. The grants, primarily ESSER grants, are going to go away, and the revolving accounts are not, it's just not a sustainable model to maintain those positions. And in the budget message, it talks about additional needs. All in all, if you look at this year and next year, in order to provide the services that our students need, we are going to require an additional 12.7 FTEs over what is currently in the FY23 budget. We've also been dealing with a significant number of requests for testing. It's put a tremendous amount of strain on some of our special education specialists, OTs, inclusion teachers, program teachers. And we have really seen a significant increase in needs for students in our pre-K to 2 classes. And as you know, students that are on IEPs, we are mandated as a district, like all districts in the Commonwealth, to provide services to meet the individual student needs. In addition, we are preparing for a negotiation with all 5 of our collective bargaining groups coming up at the conclusion of FY24. So next year, we're trying to look towards the future and look at our current budget and what it may look like in FY25 as well. Something that we're doing to prepare for that negotiation is we are doing a compensation study with various other districts, some of which are our neighbors, and some of them are our DART districts, our comparable districts according to DESE. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we are offering a competitive salary schedule for all 5 of our collective bargaining agreements. I'm sure all of you have heard there is a significant shortage of teachers. The number of people going into education has declined dramatically nationwide. And in addition to doing our best to recruit teachers, we're also going to have to make sure that we retain our staff as well by offering competitive wages. Another challenge that we're facing is that our out-of-district special education placements have gone up, or are projected to go up, I should say, on average around 14%, our private school placements, which is extremely high. Special education tuitions will also be increasing as well. We're looking at a potential Ashby Elementary building project, the potential for a Hawthorne Brook middle school building project, which would likely be MSBA funded if we can get it approved. We did have to increase our substitute teacher pay from $60 a day to $100 a day in order to be competitive with surrounding districts. And the $100 a day puts us essentially in the middle and much more competitive than we had been previously. And we are looking to upgrade several of our school security systems, whether it be cameras, screening systems as people enter the building so that they can scan their licenses. Again, camera systems, keyless entry systems, and safety kits, should we need them, should we have to do an evacuation to another location. Our regular education transportation contract is expiring at the end of FY24. And after the pandemic, we are likely going to see a significant increase there. We have not negotiated with D for a few years now, but back when we did negotiate it initially, it was a 3-year contract. It's close to a 21% increase. In addition to that, our special education transportation contract is expiring at the conclusion of this year, and we are working on a new contract with them. And it looks like that's going to be between an 8 and a 9% increase based on initial negotiations. We are looking at significant increases in gas and electric. Gas, we were able to secure something much better than what we thought it would be at a 30% increase for the next several years, but electric looks like it's going to be higher than that moving forward. So all in all, what we've always tried to present a budget that is responsible and it's transparent. And I think this budget is certainly responsible and transparent. We've been open about this from the very beginning. We've been asked by the towns to present a budget that equates to essentially a 3% increase for the North Middlesex Regional School District, even less in most cases. But right now, that's just not sustainable for us. If you look at our collective bargaining agreements and salary schedules, the average annual increase is 4% if you look across the salary schedules. Our health insurance increases at an average of 7%. This year, we are budgeting for 10 because we just don't know. It's an unknown right now. Transportation increases at an average of 7% a year. Utilities, we are preparing for a 30% increase in gas and a 50% increase in electric. And then we have our out-of-district placements at 14. All of those numbers are significantly higher, with the exception of the teacher salary schedule, or all 5 collective bargaining agreement schedules at 4. They're all higher than 3. So when we start our budget, we are already starting backed into a corner, so to speak. And we've reached a point where post-pandemic, we need to meet student needs. We need to make sure that we maintain class sizes that are acceptable. And we also need to deal with the social emotional needs of our students and some EL needs that are state mandates at this point. And we are coming in at a 6.34% increase from FY23 to FY24. The administrative team has met on numerous occasions, and we cannot find a place to cut, which we have been able to do previously. I think we have cut our budget in the past in areas of curriculum and instruction, and we've made some sacrifices, and those budgets have not been touched. They've stayed the same. That being said, there is no place to cut at this point. And in order for us to get to a 3% increase, we would have to cut just north of $2 million. If we were to look at staffing and look at what the impact would be on staffing, because at this point, the only place that we can cut would be staffing. We would be looking in the vicinity of 21 educators in the district, which I can assure you it cannot happen. The school system would not be able to operate, and we would not be able to provide anywhere near the level of education that we are providing right now. Again, the 3% is something that is, I don't believe we can get there. I also believe that we're in a situation where I do not see how the towns can make it work either, because we are looking at likely assessments for Pepperell and Ashby that are going to be higher than 11%. Townsend will be slightly lower, but Pepperell and Ashby will be quite high. So that's what a 6 point, that's what a 6.34% budget increase would look like for the towns. It would be very, very high for at least 2 of our towns and high for the 3rd town. And again, look, just keeping an eye to the future at FY25, we have 5 collective bargaining agreements and a school bus transportation agreement that we have to negotiate. But the potential for more state mandates moving forward. I will say one of the unknowns right now, in addition to health insurance, is that we do not know what the governor's number is going to look like. We are not going to get the governor's number at the end of the month, which has been practiced in the past because there's been a change in administration. So that could take some time. And there's certainly hope that we will get additional funding. But this is where we're at right now. That's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Brad.
Mhm.
Susan?
Yeah, Brett, I was curious, is this unique to our district to see something like a 6% increase, or you had a chance to see what the other districts around us are looking like?
Sure. So Nancy Haynes, our school business manager, reached out to her listserv, and honestly, she got responses back that one of them was along the lines of, we would be celebrating if that were our budget increase. Meaning that our budget increase was not matching theirs. I believe that the district that came back with that was around 11%. It was very, very high. We did not hear from a district that was lower than us. But it's certainly a concern because again, the transportation, which is always going to be a problem because there's not a real bid process. You're essentially locked in and you're forced to accept it. Is the same for special education. Finding it, although it's it's not a bid process, there aren't vendors that are available to do it. We've looked, we've tried to find other alternatives, and we have not been successful. There just aren't a lot of special education vendors out there. Then we have the health insurance, which is always high beyond our control, and now the out-of-district placement at 14%. There's hope. The state has been asked to step in and help with that. I'm not sure if they're going to. And then the utilities on top of it. Again, 30% for gas and potentially 50% for electric over previous costs. I mean, we've literally gotten to the point where we have reached out. It's just good practice. We've always, we always try to be cognizant, just to send memos out to staff saying, please make sure that when you use the restroom, you turn the light off when you leave. Treat it like it's your home, because that's really where we are at, trying to conserve electricity to the best of our ability and not leaving lights on in rooms that we aren't in. And windows opened during the heating season.
I also wanted to ask about, I know we have to make certain assumptions, and we state those assumptions about that we don't know, like electricity and health insurance. How about the towns? Do we know what assumptions they're using? They have the same, right? But they have health insurance to deal with, electricity to deal with, and do we know like what assumptions they're using? I think that it might be it's an interesting discussion to have if the 4 of us can all have those same assumptions.
So I think that's one of the purposes. I shouldn't say I think, that is one of the purposes of the budget summits, so that we can all share our budgets and have conversations. To be frank, the attendance at those meetings has not been what I had hoped for. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything, But I feel that at those meetings, we share our budgets pretty early. We let people know where we are and what our challenges are. And it's just not, I can't say that it's consistent across the board. When we do have those conversations with the towns, if some of them are, there are certainly some that do participate, but it's not, it would be much more helpful if we had all 3 towns participating. So that we knew, so that you would know what you were walking into come town meeting as far as support. And you've had those conversations in advance. And I do feel that generally speaking, I can only say that that's been the case with one of our 3 towns on a regular basis.
Thank you, Brad.
And I don't, again, it's not my intention to be negative, but I feel that we've tried to be as collaborative as possible, and it's just not, it's not meeting the goal of what I thought it would.
David, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me?
Yes. I
Yes.
Okay. I felt like in the last election there was a proposition passed where we were supposed to be getting extra funding. Is there any word on when that will be coming in?
No, it was question 1.
Yeah.
So we have not heard as of yet what that's going to look like. So again, as far as the governor's number, we may be, and we have been previously pleasantly surprised with the numbers that have come out. But right now we don't have those numbers. So we're making our best assumptions based on the past. So certainly things could change. Whether or not it will change in the range to get us to 3%, I don't know. It's certainly our hope. Nancy, I don't know. I know Nancy Haynes is on the call, and I certainly don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know that you were in contact with Roger Hatch, a former DESI business person. I wasn't sure if you had heard anything from him that would make us feel differently. I know you were speaking with him, I think, today.
Yeah, he's helping put together some numbers for the minimum local contributions, because we really don't get those numbers until the governor's budget comes out. And there's a number of things that we can calculate, including like enrollment and the shift in enrollment between towns. But there's some things that don't come out until that final number. The municipal growth factor is one of those, the income levels, and then member towns, and those all factor into that part of the Chapter 70 calculation. So I don't have any information on the 1%, the question 1. I haven't heard that whether any funds will be available for that for next fiscal year or not at this point.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Questions from anybody else? Comments? Brad, I guess the question that I have, and just to kind of clarify, so when you're saying that the towns are kind of setting targets for our budget, is that really the town administrators are telling you what they would like to see, and
Yes.
not, that's not a FinCom decision or a people's decision. It's really the town administrator looking at their budget and trying to figure out how they can maximize what they need against what we're asking for.
Yes. And what I don't know is whether or not there's been communication with the FinComs. I would assume that there has been, but I can't say that for certain, but I am hearing it from the town managers when they participate in the budget summits.
Okay. Have they given any indication what they would do to support level service for next year?
I know Nancy spoke directly to one town administrator. Nancy, I don't know if you want to share what the number was that was given, which would not be level service.
Yeah, I don't have a specific number, but in general, the towns tend to be able to support something in the 3% of an assessment of 3% increase. And usually when the assessment's over 3%, it gets more difficult. So I don't know that even a 3% budget is necessarily going to be within that realm for the towns.
I know that in the previous couple of years, we have worked hard to get it under 3%. And we've been, if not right on the nose, we've been successfully getting it under. But it's never been a slam dunk either. It's always been a challenge to get the budget through. So this is a very different situation where we're not looking at a 3% assessment with the current, with the state of our current budget. We are looking at least for two of our towns, an assessment north of 11.
Because just because our budget's at 3% doesn't mean the assessment's at 3%. Just like right now, our budget's at 6%, but the assessment is looking like 11 or more.
Yes.
So to get down to an assessment of 3% is, well, crippling.
That would be almost, that would not be possible. So if we had to come in at an assessment of 3% in this budget, we would also have to make some significant reductions, unless I'm misreading that, Nancy. There would still be some significant reductions if we had to come in at an assessment of 3% for each of our 3 towns, and we would not be able to operate effectively.
Yeah, unless there's some state funding that comes through that we are not expecting at this point. Again, we don't typically get huge increases from the state in the Chapter 70 area, mostly because of our size of our district over time and just the way that falls out for North Middlesex. But if we did get more funding, then that would also be another way to solve some of these issues.
Randy?
Is there any way, or I know there is a way, but can we reach out to our state reps to, I mean, it's kind of crazy that this extra money was voted in. And they're giving absolutely no information to the schools, especially in a year like this, when everybody is, the towns, the schools are all experiencing these high increases in costs. And we know there's money out there. Can you give us at least a hint of a ballpark? Are we going to get more? Are we not going to get any more? What is some of the thinking on the Hill? I know we're not going to get the governor's numbers, but we can at least try and push for a little bit about what the legislature is thinking about with this extra money.
One challenge related to that is that, Sheila Harrington's seat was trying to be filled by Andrew Shepherd or Margaret Scarsdale. Well, neither one of them were sworn in because it's in court right now, the election.
It actually doesn't look like that seat is going to be determined. It looks like until the summer. From what I'm hearing, I will say, just to answer the question, I have reached out to the State House the last 2 days, and I've left a message. Because even now with the state reps and the state senators, it's very difficult for them to get through to the governor because of the change in leadership. Emails, all of that is all changing. And it's been obviously hectic the last couple of days, but I have left 2 voicemails. I am hoping to hear from someone tomorrow. I did hear today that I would hear back within 24 hours. So I hope to hear something back tomorrow. On who I can speak to, whether it's going to the new Secretary of Education, Pat Tutwiler, or if they have me speak to someone else. Again, I completely agree. I think we need to be given some information around what's going to be done, if anything, with the results of question 1. Are we going to get additional funding, and what is that going to look like?
Yeah. Do we think about going to the press and have them write a story? I mean, because we're not the only district that's going in there, coming in with this. With the change in leadership, it's always been slow. But this seems a little bit more chaotic with things up in the air and all of that. And it's a very critical year. Again, like Brad, you were saying that other districts are coming in even higher than what we're coming in initially at. Maybe a press story can reach out to a number of different districts, get something out in the public to start, having this outcry that they voted for this extra money, and the schools can't even count on it yet because we don't even know whether anything's coming to us or not.
Okay.
The pressure that way.
Okay. No, and I'm certainly willing to go in that direction if I do not hear something back at some point in time this week that will give me that will shed some light on what's going to happen. So certainly willing to explore that and see if I can reach out to some of my counterparts in other districts and see if they'd be willing to join me in that.
Thank you. David? Mr.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Okay. What is the state's contribution to our budget? How much money do we get from the state?
Do you want to take that,
How much money
Nancy?
did we get in the last budget?
Is Nancy still on?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just give me 1 moment.
David,
So
are you looking like percentage of our overall revenue comes from the state? What percentage?
Yeah,
of our
so
overall-
the state gives us just over last year gave us 21, almost $22 million towards our budget of 61,129,000. So percentage wise,
Third, roughly.
yeah,
I know 15 years ago they were giving us
just under 40%, 36% towards the budget. And again, a lot of this is due to the fact I probably say this every year, that we've had reductions in enrollment. Again, we're stable right now, but we haven't had increases back up to the numbers where we used to be. Some of the Student Opportunity Act funding it's been pushed through in the formula will help over time, but those increases are on I believe mostly a 7-year implementation schedule. So those have been started. Additional funding for things like out of district placements, low income students, that type of thing, that helps increase the amount of the state aid that we're entitled to. So eventually, hopefully that will catch up a little bit and help in the state aid area. But in general, we receive the real minimal amount of state aid, which last year I think ended up being somewhere between $30 and $60 per student. So it was not a lot of extra funding.
Thank you, Nancy. David, do you have any other questions?
No, sorry.
Anybody else questions or comments? So our budget hearing meeting with town officials is on February 6th. I kind of wanted to get a sense, Superintendent, from yourself as well as the committee on doing that meeting in person versus remote.
I would certainly be open to either. Yeah, I do sometimes wonder from a convenience standpoint if remote is easier. I do know that in the past, when we've tried to do both, it has not been successful. So I would think it would need to be one or the other. But I do feel like our meetings are attended. The attendance is much better in this format. But I also realize that meeting in person sometimes can be better. I just don't think that it's unlikely we're going to have the participation. Or maybe we will, just because it's such a tough budget season. I'm just, in looking at normal budget meetings and in the past, the budget hearings in the past, they haven't been is well attended. And I do think sometimes that's because of the, everyone has things to do at night, and sometimes having the remote option adds that convenience piece to it. So they're able to, so more people are able to listen in and or participate.
Yeah.
But I'm open to either.
Okay, June.
I think that, I'm open to meeting in person, but I do think we would have to find a way to allow remote access if we do. Budget hearings of the past and even our regular meetings of the past, would have the same two people in the audience all the time. And even the hearings, we may have 20, 30 people or so. And here we are, a regular meeting with 75 participants. So we definitely, have a lot more participation and easier access when we are remote.
Thank you, June. Right, Superintendent, do you have anything else on the budget piece?
No, I did just want to add that just to be honest, I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in our platform to allow for an in-person and a remote meeting without an upgrade in the large group instruction room, which we currently don't have. So that's certainly a concern, because I do think offering remote to an in-person meeting and not being able to follow through on it could certainly create more issues.
Yeah, Brad, I've met with Jeremy. We've tried lots of different options. It's really difficult with the logistics of that room. It's so big. So that's part of the problem. And to be honest, I'm not sure we have enough time to figure it out and pull it off. I mean, we're incredibly busy right now,
I think the problem is that it's not guaranteed, where if the room had been wired for it initially and set up for that purpose, it would be very different. But I think having to set it up ourselves again just could lead to a lot of disappointment, angry people, if people plan on participating remotely and then they can't.
Yep. No, I definitely agree with that. All right, I guess the only other thing that I'll add on the budget message is probably more geared towards the members of the community, and that's to just ask that you come out, make your opinions known, make your voice heard. Because again, I think as was talked about earlier, we're hearing from a very, very small number of people within the town, often the town administrators, on where they want or desire our budget to be. But our budgets are separate from town budgets. And if the community wants a strong education system, then we need to hear that from members of the community. And if they feel that times are tough and there's cuts that need to be made, we need to hear that as well, so we can best represent members of the community when setting the budget or when approving the budget and the path forward for the district. So I do encourage folks to attend the budget hearing on February 6th and obviously email the school committee, myself, your reps, etc., to make sure that we know what you are all thinking when it comes to the education of the kids of our community. All right. There's nothing else on that. We'll move on to subcommittees. Accelerator repair, Lisa, do we have any
update.
Any update there? Okay. Ashby Building Committee, June.
We have a meeting tomorrow, but we are still waiting to hear back from the towns. I know Ashby Select Board is intending to vote on setting up a town meeting to vote on the feasibility study. I'm not sure about the other two towns, if they are having a meeting or not yet. I haven't heard back, but the building committee will be meeting tomorrow.
June, Townsend does have a special town meeting coming up at the end of the month. Not just because it was delayed from earlier in the month due to lack of quorum, I believe. The selectmen had a meeting on Tuesday last week. I haven't had a chance to listen to the meeting to see what the decision was on the feasibility study and whether it's going to that special town meeting or not.
Okay, thank you.
But I believe they discussed it. I think I heard, but I'm not clear. I haven't heard it myself, what the plan is. It's recorded and online on YouTube if anyone gets to it before me.
Do all three towns have to vote, or if Ashby's the only one and the other two towns decide not to take action, does that still pass?
They can opt to not vote and it would pass
Okay.
if they don't want to have a town meeting.
But if the Townsend or Pepperell vote no, then it's dead.
I think they both have, right? Do all three have to pass it, or just two of the three?
It's unanimous.
Has to be unanimous. Okay.
The other two towns don't have to take action if they don't choose to.
Correct.
Kind of makes it like an abstain.
I see Ms. Kell from the Townsend Select Board has her hand up. Veronica, do you want to add something real quick? We can't hear you if you're talking. I see you unmuted, but I don't hear anything.
Does she need to be promoted to a panelist?
No, she's set to be able to talk, but I don't, yeah, I see she's unmuted, but I don't hear anything. All right. So Susan, I'll let you follow up with Townsend and figure out where we go, where they're going to go from there, if that works. Yeah.
Nancy, did I state that correctly about like how it impacts the other towns or not? Do you have a little more to just?
So yeah, the three towns been notified that the school committee voted the feasibility study. They have the option of taking it to a town meeting. If they decide that they don't want to take it to a town meeting after 60 days, it's deemed passed. If they do take it to a town meeting, that's fine. They could, if it's voted up and all three member towns have an affirmative, then the feasibility study would pass. If it's voted down, then it would fail.
Then
And
how does this $300,000 affect Townsend and Pepperell?
based on the regional agreement, when we assess debt, it's based on the students that are in the building. So at the moment, there are only Ashby students in the Ashby Elementary building. So any debt service assessed at this point in time, unless something changed with redistricting in the district, again, that's not something that's on the table, but it's based on who's in the building. And that's how it's assessed to the member towns.
So Townsend, at the moment, if you were to assess it, Townsend and Pepperell wouldn't pay anything.
Correct.
And it's not part of the operating budget. It's separate.
Correct. It's a debt exclusion vote.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not a debt exclusion. It's a borrowing vote.
Thank you.
Anything else on Ashby Building Committee? Thank you, Nancy. and Susan.
I don't have anything at this time.
All right, moving on to Communications Committee. Tom, any update?
Yeah, nothing presently. Now that we're back from the holiday break and New Year, probably throw together a meeting pretty quickly. Believe it or not, it's kind of that time in the cycle to review some stuff over the past couple months and take a look at what we want to add in addition to our initial posting on the website. So more to come to everybody on that. I'll probably be in touch at some point later this week just to set up a meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom.
Mhm.
Finance, Lisa.
I'm sorry, Tom, I had missed the unmute, Craig. I had a quick question for Tom.
Sure, go for it.
I don't know if it's something that is worth explaining somewhere, but what Nancy just explained, like what the feasibility, 300,000 that we voted to borrow for the feasibility study, like how that affects the three towns.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
I
definitely
think
take a
it's
look.
confusing, the process, and I wouldn't want, you know.
Yep. So we'll definitely take a look at that. And then, we'll certainly take a look. Obviously, the budget's going to be a big part of
Right.
anything. I mean, even if you look at, what we did in the fall, kudos to June for just kind of putting in a note in there about budget stuff upcoming. So I would anticipate the budget is going to be a big part of that for sure.
Yes.
Randy, do you have a question?
Just along those lines, Tom, while you're looking at doing either an explanation on how that vote works and with the debt exclusion or the borrowing, we're in budget season. And every year we wind up a number of times explaining to both the public and to everybody in the town governments, reminding them on how our budget affects each town. Just having something in writing that we can have, like maybe an information section that we put out this time of year on budgets, on that just because our budget's going off 6% doesn't mean that's what the towns do, and how does it get split between the towns. We have new people coming into the district all the time, either through move-ins or through their kids just starting in kindergarten, first grade, and they're starting to pay attention. And just having something in writing probably would be very, very helpful to be able to point people towards.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm jotting notes down and suggestions, and we can certainly discuss as a subcommittee. So that's great.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Tom? All right, thank you. Finance, Lisa.
Yes, we met on Friday and we have a budget transfer that we need to have approval for. And so we'll start with that. The suggested motion here, move the committee vote to approve the FY 23-1 budget transfer. $53,611 to be added to administration, legal, audits, and salary. $706,227 to be added to out-of-district tuition and assessments. $306 to be transferred from operation maintenance and technology or maintenance technology. $689.50 to be transferred from instructional support. $18,120 to be transferred from pupil services. $640,523 to be transferred from insurance retirement programs, and $200 from debt service for a total transfer of $759,838.
So moved.
Got a second? Or,
Second.
thank you, Tom. All right, any questions on the transfer?
Just
Any-
a comment. I think a lot of that is related to legal costs. We're transferring into that legal administration. Is that
Yeah,
what I
it's-
remember?
The vast majority of it is going into out-of-district placement increases that have happened during this school year. And that's the larger number going into the out-of-district
Okay.
placement account. A smaller amount going into the, to shore up the legal accounts, which again, mostly connected to the special ed side of things. But again, we're estimating at this point some of these numbers, so. This is the first transfer we've done since the beginning of the school year, so it's also settling the final contracts of any newly hired staff and moving funds as we need to in that area.
Any other questions from anybody? All right, so this is to approve the budget transfer. Dave,
Yep.
Jessica,
Yes.
June,
You.
Lisa,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Thank you, everybody. Lisa, back to you.
I do have a recommendation from the Finance Committee. Randy Rush was not present, but Will Hackler, Susan Robbins, and myself were. And so as a possible cost savings measure on the FY24 budget, we would recommend that the district explores the temporary placement of Ashby Elementary students to Spalding and Squanicook for the fall of 2023. This would only be temporary, as we would like Ashby to make its decisions on its potential for what it would like to do with its building. We know that any project that they choose to do would require the placement of our students at our different locations to allow for easy renovation and construction to take place at a rapid pace. We also need to explore and talk to Keystone because they currently lease some of Squanicook. So we need to give them enough time if this is a potential option that the district moves forward with. I do believe that we need to truly consider this because we do know that our budget cannot be handed over to the towns at a 6.3%. That's asking them during economic times to find things that we just do not have, and that comes down to money. I hate to see that we do any reductions to staff, as I do believe that that would cause a morale issue across the entire district, and it would take years for us to recover from if we do any cuts. These are not great economic times for any of us, and I know that this issue is emotionally charged. It's not one that I like to make, and I know that on this committee, none of us want to make hard decisions, but sometimes we need to be the catalyst to push people to make those decisions and also be responsible stewards of a school budget for our taxpayers. That's all I have to say right now.
June,
Okay. Well, I personally would like to recommend to the entire committee to not take the finance committee up on that recommendation. I do have a strong feeling that if we move Ashby students out of Ashby Elementary, we will not get them back in there. And it really, really bothers me that this is an option presented after, for the past year and a half, we've been getting feedback from the Ashby community, and 99% of people have said that they will do whatever they need to do to keep our students in the school. It's not fair to the Ashby kids. It's not fair to the Ashby families or the Ashby taxpayers, really, because I don't think it would end up temporary. We have a committee formed. We are doing the things that we've been asked to do to keep these kids at Ashby. And perhaps we'll know more after the feasibility study, if that passes or not, how the town's members who haven't spoke up actually feel. But we have, you know, we've asked for feedback and surveys. We've asked for people to come to the meetings. And everyone has said this whole time that how important it is to keep the school open. And honestly, if the kids aren't in school, I just see it falling into more disrepair. Like, where are we saving here? And I know the number 600,000 was mentioned, 600,000 a year we could save if we pull those kids, but we would need to put 200,000 almost into renovating Squaticook to even move them in there in the first place. So where we're looking to trim 3 million, that, you know, 400,000 is not a huge amount for what we're giving up. And I really, it is an emotionally charged issue. I'm glad I had like a slight heads up and could digest it for a moment before this meeting, but it's nobody wants to see that. It's not a solution, and that's the thing. So even if we do save 400,000, 600,000, what happens next year? It's not, we're not going to have that money that we don't have this year. We're not going to suddenly have that back. And it's just going to keep getting pushed off. I know it is. And I don't think we're going to be able to move quick enough to do whatever renovations or whatever we do with that building, that the kids would need to be out by the start of next year. That should not be figured into the budget. There's other ways to do it. There are a lot of new positions being added, even the upgrades to security. And I know we're expecting grants to cover some of that, but there's still costs involved. Maybe it's not the year to upgrade stuff. Maybe it's not the year to buy new things. You know, we need to look at other places and not just have one town kind of make this up and one town lose out and one subset of kids be losing hours of their day riding a bus back and forth while their peers in the other towns get to play with their friends. Like there's so much to it, and we've talked about all the reasons why it's important to keep them in the school. And I mean I must be blue right now because I've said it a lot of times, and I just can't even believe that we're circling back to this conversation again. And I hope that the committee does not consider it as a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Susan, before I get to you real quick, so this is actually not on the agenda for a vote. So I want to make sure we keep that in mind as we go through comments and feedback. I don't want to go too far down this path because we don't have this on the agenda. So Susan.
Yes, I just wanted to provide my feedback being on the finance subcommittee. I know when this was first mentioned as an option or a possibility, my reaction was no way. You know, we're not going back here again. The more the meeting went on, the more I was thinking back, like back in 2009 is that when we were in a very difficult budget position. And one of the ways we did that was we reconfigured school, you know, not that we reconfigured schools instead of being a 4-level system. We went down to the 3-level system we are today, because it used to be preschool to 2 in a building and then 3rd grade to 5th in another building, and then middle school and high school, just as a little background for those of you that may still have been in high school when we did that. But I know that helped a lot in saving the budget. And it's like, oh, that helped last time. And the more we talk, we're like, well, you know what? At some point, the kids are going to have to step away so we can address the building and then bring them back. Why not do it now and save that money? But the more I've had time to think about it, the more think before we move the kids out, we need a commitment that something's going to be done with that building so they have a place to come back to. So First reaction was no. Second reaction was, yeah, we got to look into this. And I think that's one of the things we're doing in this meeting is we're exploring. Tossing the idea out and getting some feedback on that, but I don't know that it's the right thing to do. I hear you, Jim.
Thank you, Susan. Randy?
I'm not opposed to investigating things. My first reaction is that this is very different than what Susan was talking about when we consolidated buildings in the past. We had no vision of going back to those other buildings when we went from a 4-level to a 3-level. So that is a very different scenario now. If this is going to be explored as far as what the actual savings are, things to consider are the building's still ours. So we're not giving it back to the town. So yeah, we may save on some heating, but we still need to heat it so that the pipes don't freeze through the whole winter. We still have to upkeep some of the landscape and things like that. Even if the kids aren't there, there's still maintenance that needs to get done on those buildings. So really explore all of the options of what is it really going to save not having the children in that building. We, like June had mentioned, if we need to do upgrades to Squanicook, how much are those upgrades? How quickly can we get them done? If we're saving any money in staff because we're consolidating a building, we don't need staff that's going to be repetitive, then we're going to need them back when we go back. Can we find them again? And that's just going to be an added cost going back in. And it's just a lot of these different things. So again, I'm not opposed to looking at this and see if it really truly is a cost savings. And then we also have to take a look at busing because there's going to be more and less busing. We know when we move them there for the windows and roof project over to Squanicook, we had increased busing. How much is that going to cost versus the savings that we have? And we need to take a look. I don't know, Nancy, if we have any money that we still owe the MSBA on that building or not. But that's one of the reasons when we originally tried to close down the Peter Fitz building, that we ended up keeping it for a couple extra years because we owed money to the MSBA and we couldn't give it back unless we wanted to pay that money back. Just so if we're going to look into this, just make sure we're looking at all of the different costs and increases to see whether something like this, because it's going to be quite a bit of disruption. Especially if we're going to do it twice in the next, 5 years or so. If we do a major project there, we do this for 1 year, move them back, have the 2 or 3 years to do all the planning, and then have to do it all over again. So really do a thorough evaluation about whether something like this is feasible before it comes to the school committee for any kind of a vote.
June?
And before any type of vote, I would like to hear back from the public more as well. And any ideas that the public has, honestly, on ways to avoid this and what else we can do. Because we are in a very tight spot and I understand that. And normally I like out of the box thinking. I don't like this one. But that's the thing. I'm a parent of 3. My kids have long aged out of Ashby Elementary, but as a taxpayer and a citizen, I would pay more money in taxes to keep the kids in that school. So, and I know others feel the same way, but while we do have a lot of people on here today, I just want to encourage people, send your emails, speak in public comment, let the committee know how you feel, but also, again, give us any ideas. Something's got to give. So the budget message, and I believe the overall budget, our packet essentially is on the website. So go on the North Middlesex website and comb through it and help, because we are getting into kind of desperate times, and I don't want to see desperate measures. Thank you.
Thank you, June. I'd also add for folks, again, because the superintendent is getting feedback and pressure from town administrators and town officials. And again, if members of the community feel strongly one way or another, that they should also provide that feedback to town officials, who are looking at the overall financial situation for the town. And that way they've got the full picture and obviously send that to the committee as well. So we have that. The budget hearing again on February 6th, if I still have that date right. Again, is a chance to provide feedback on the overall district budget, and my assumption, or maybe even my ask, is that there be a couple different options presented for the committee to take into consideration. That there's if we take this action, then the budget looks this way. If we take this action, maybe it looks slightly different. And that allows us again to make an informed decision and have the public provide input at that budget hearing on again on what they feel is the right path forward for the community at large. Susan?
And to add to that, Craig, the public lobbying the people at the state. That
Absolutely.
we need more funding, because if they don't hear anyone talking, they don't think it's a problem. In addition, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this move of Ashby children to Townsend, it's not Ashby children moving to Squanicook. It's a reconfiguration of Townsend, where Squanicook would be a pre-K, kindergarten, and one school with Townsend and Ashby children together, the way they are at Hawthorne Brook, and that Spalding would be a grade 2, 3, and 4 school with Ashby children and Townsend children, in classrooms together. And that way, I don't believe we can achieve the level of savings without doing that. So it would be a change for Ashby students and for Townsend students.
Superintendent?
Thank you. I do just want to add, I know there's a number of people on the call. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this or not, but we do have a current complaint that was filed by a resident with the Office of Civil Rights regarding handicap accessibility. And I was made aware last week that there was an additional complaint filed with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health around air quality, which is going to mandate testing be done
At Ashby, both of those
in the school. But both of them are at Ashby Elementary.
Yeah.
I do not know who filed the complaints. I was told it was a resident, but I don't know if it was the same person. I don't know. I was not given a name. They were not able to disclose that. But there were two separate complaints. One filed again with the Office of Civil Rights, which is more of a federal complaint, and the other one is with the Department of Public Health, which is a Massachusetts state level complaint around air quality. So handicap accessibility and air quality. And I do not know the status. I did speak to the Office of Civil Rights. They have not responded as of yet. They always do respond, and I have not heard anything yet. And as far as the Department of Public Health, that is ongoing, and they will be visiting the school at some point this week, I believe. So just wanted to share that. Those are two relatively new developments.
And that was part of our thinking in making the recommendation of having the Ashby children temporarily move to Townsend buildings, is that if the air quality complaint came to be an issue, then we may have to move the students out because of that. I don't know. We were just tossing around possibilities, so kind of getting ahead of it into exploring this option further.
Thank you, Susan. Lisa, anything else on finance?
No, not right. Not at this time.
All right. Superintendent, anything else on the budget?
No, thank you.
Thanks. All right, we'll move on to negotiation and personnel. Tom, any update?
Not at this time, no.
All right, thank you. Policy, Randy?
just need to get a meeting together. I had to cancel the one just before the break, so I just need to schedule a new one.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else that folks needed to bring up or any items they want on the next meeting agenda? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Whoa. You got June on that one.
I'll second then.
All right.
Andrew?
All right. Dave,
Yep.
Jessica,
Yes.
June, Lisa,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So we're adjourned, everybody. Appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you all in our next meeting. Have a good night. Thanks, everybody.